Hello there. How are you? Good. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Really, really glad to hear it. Why am I doing that bit? Hi. Welcome to Sequel Pitch. My name's Drew Toynbee. It is really nice to say that again. This is the second time I'm recording this. I'm only going to re-record the audio. For now, the opening audio, I should say, for now. I will try and find a time to sit down and redo all of my thoughts and recap of this entire movie that I just recorded for an hour. And my laptop said that it was recording through the microphone that I was holding in front of my face. But it wasn't. It was not. It was recording from the onboard microphone. And it does not sound good. I was not talking at a volume that was appropriate for the laptop to be picking up my voice. I was talking at a volume appropriate for this microphone that I'm holding in front of my face to pick up my voice. So, if you could do me a favour, for now, and just imagine that the rest of this episode that you're about to listen to sounds like this. That would be great. It doesn't. It really doesn't. And I'm going to re-record it because I've just had a lovely time sat on the floor of the Business Design Centre in Islington at the podcast show, which is what spurred me on to do this, because one of the last in-person sessions for this podcast, it feels like we ever got done, was for Top Gun Maverick. So I took myself to the cinema to see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning and promised myself I would record something for you all and put it out. So that's what I'm doing. But it's horrible. The quality's terrible. I'm very, very sorry. And I'll do it again when I can. Well, actually now, since we last spoke, I now have 2 kids. The younger one is teething. Actually, the older one's about to be teething, but it's not such a big deal the second time around. As in his baby teeth are starting to fall out and his big teeth are coming through. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So, to sum up, we're back. We are back doing stuff, I promise. Some of us are going to be doing these like spoiler casts and one-off episodes on our own. If we feel like it, we're just going to go for it, and we are going to come back with the proper show sometime. We promise. I really, really promise it is going to happen. I know it's been 15 months since the last time we promised we were coming back really soon, but now we're going to be coming back a lot sooner than 14 months. Let's put it that way. So yes, for now, if you're one of the really early adopters, please enjoy the horrible, horrible laptop audio that has just been recorded for your listening displeasure. And I'll re-record it for you again soon. So, come back in a week and hopefully I'll have redone it. But for now, I made a promise to several people last night that I would put out an episode this morning, and by God, it's 11:43. I have 17 minutes before I make myself a liar and I don't put something out this morning. So it's going out. Thanks for being here again, for sticking with us. However many of you there are who get this and go, what the fuck, and click play. I love you, we love you, and we'll see you really soon. Try to enjoy my rambling and sonically abysmal thoughts about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Love you, bye!
So, yeah, I'm going to first off jump in with totally spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. And I'll give it a score, and then I'm going to tell everyone who hasn't seen it to stop listening, unless you really don't want to see it. And then I'm going to break down exactly what I think about a lot of this movie in much more excruciating detail. So, I'm not going to try and do the spoiler-free synopsis in 60 seconds, because I don't think that would be possible. But here we go. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The logline is, the final reckoning for Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt. and it's no longer called Dead Reckoning Part 2, it is The Final Reckoning. I've no idea why. It is a direct continuation from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. In that movie, they're trying to get a magic key that will help to control an all-powerful AI called the Entity. And in this movie, they've got the key, and now they've got to use it to stop the Entity. That actually, and going into any more details would be really spoilerific. So I'm not going to. I will get to my thoughts. I'll start off by saying that I've got quite a lot of affection for the Mission Impossible movies. Like the first one's cool. The second one's mental, but it came out when I was young and impressionable, and it was still pretty cool. The third one's really good. The fourth one is absolutely fantastic. The fifth one's pretty good. Mission Impossible Fallout is a phenomenally good movie. Dead Reckoning was, fine. It was pretty cool. And this one, The Final Reckoning, is not the worst of the bunch. And if you are a full-on, die-hard fan of these movies, particularly the latter end, where the team becomes more established, basically kind of from 3 onwards, but maybe more from, it is from 3 onwards. That's where it becomes a really, that's where the narratives all tie together, through lines going all the way through, with Shannon and Julia being part of the story. It's the worst. It's better than Mission Impossible 2. For my money, it's the worst outside of that. This movie is 40% exposition dialogue. It is another 40% people talking we're standing in a circle in a group and we're discussing the plan and we're saying one line at a time, like we're reading it from a script. It's the heist setup thing where people intercut and say, we're going to try and do this thing, and then someone else snidely goes, but then someone bad is going to do this thing, and then someone goes, yes, but we're going to do this. And in the context of the spy team and setting up heists and things like that, I'm okay with that. But there are a bunch of moments where there are characters doing that have absolutely no business doing it. It is also there is a cavalcade of callbacks and references and things that are tying all of the previous movies in the franchise into this one. Some of it's just references, but some of it is included in the story. And I'm usually a person who loves that kind of stuff. Normally, that will absolutely put a good smile on my face, and I'll enjoy the fact that the filmmakers have recognised that they have fans in the real world who recognise that balaclava with all the sewn-on eye covers, for example. And the moments like that came up in the previous movies, I enjoyed. And this time I just found myself rolling my eyes at a lot of this movie. Maybe not necessarily from the references to previous movies, although they did fall flat, but good lord, it's really po-faced. You have Pom Klementieff, who's great, who is great in any role. She's really great in this role. but she has not much to do except sort of stare off into the middle distance and say things in French in a melancholic or vaguely threatening way. And she does it really well, but that's kind of all she does. And she kicks a couple of people in the head, and she's good at that too. Hayley Atwell is there and kind of becoming the emotional heart of the movie in a lot of ways, particularly for Ethan. And that's kind of inexplicable. He met her last movie when she joined the cast, and she was a fine addition to the cast. And now she's Ethan's emotional touchstone, when we already had Julia and we had Rebecca's character, and it feels quite forced that she would have taken this position. Simon Pegg is doing fine work. Everyone's doing fine work. Everyone is doing fine work. Tom Cruise is doing absolutely fine work. But it is really po-faced. There's way less of the wry humour. There's in previous Mission movies, something goes wrong a lot of the time, and it's really become a thing in the later ones, where they'll go to make a mask and the machine's broken and it doesn't work. And they'll have to improvise, and things go wrong and they'll have to improvise. And in all the previous movies, that's exciting and it's often fun or even funny. And there is just so little about this movie that's genuinely funny. It knows it's the final movie, in theory. And so it's acting like that. It's like it's this big 3-hour-long goodbye to Ethan Hunt, who has gone from being a very capable spy to the Messiah, like the destined Messiah, who is the only man in existence who can be trusted to save the world. Yeah. And again, I'm struggling to say this a bit because I really wanted to come out of this movie being like, yeah, hell yeah, that was right back up where Fallout was. That was right back up where Mission Impossible 4 and 3 were. Absolutely loved it. They've made him more human. He cares about his team. But oh man, the AI as the enemy just does not work for me. It is meant to be all powerful, but it's clearly not, and they keep on having to rewrite its rules and how clever it is and what it can or can't do. Can it see the future and can it not? And yeah, I can't say too much more without going into spoilers. So I think I'm going to wrap up there. I'm going to give this movie 2.5 sky dueling biplanes out of 5 sky dueling biplanes. Because I don't think I would recommend many people go out to the cinema to watch this movie. But there has been a huge amount of effort put into it. Some of the sets are absolutely amazing. The effects work is really good. A lot of the performance is good. The music is great as always. Plenty of this is brilliant. But it just doesn't have the same heart and soul for me as the previous. Or maybe it has too much heart and soul and it's lost the twinkle in its eye. Yeah, that kind of works. So, 2.5 out of 5. If you've enjoyed the previous movies, and these movies mean something to you, they're not going to destroy your childhood, and yeah, maybe go out and see it. But if you've never seen a Mission Impossible movie, even if you like action and spy movies, if you've never seen a Mission Impossible movie, this is not the one to see. Right, okay. I'm going to go on to spoilers. I'm going to try not to take too long on this, but it is a 3-hour movie, and oh god, I've got so many thoughts. I will try to keep it moving. So, okay, This is your last chance. I'm going to start spoilers in a second. There'll be a jingle, and then we'll be into spoilers. Okay. 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 Spoiler the jingle. Go. Okay. Spoiler time. Right. So first off, the first 15 minutes of this movie is all exposition, kind of recapping the previous movie, but also confirming that the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 that Ethan had to steal to ransom Julia wasn't a virus, it was a malicious code. They retcon the Russian submarine being sunk at the beginning of the previous movie, and they say it was 2012, and this silent running submarine had a special computer system, and rabbit. This is all semi-inferred, but the rabbit's foot virus was released to infect this Russian sub to stop its silent running system from working, but it mutated into a fully sentient AI and sank the submarine. And then, I suppose, subsequently escaped into the internet from there somehow. Yeah, so movie opens and Luther, the ever-dependable Ving Rhames, is poorly. He's in hospital pajamas. So he's dying. Like, they don't say it, but he's obviously dying. And he's doing a bunch of work on making a USB stick that has in it a code that will infect the original source code for the entity, which is in the Russian submarine. And then if the infected source code gets put onto the internet, then it will kill the rest of the AI everywhere. Okay. Then, oh my word, what happened? So Ethan and the gang are trying to find Gabriel, played by Sam Morales, but he captures them, and he tells Ethan that he's going to help him, Gabriel, to control the entity, because the entity's pissed off with him because Ethan managed to kill him. So Gabriel is no longer the entity's avatar, he wants to be its master instead. Fine. Ethan manages to escape. Gabriel, however, Gabriel sets up a bomb with Luther and steals the virus USB key. Ethan finds Gabriel's weird talk to the entity face digital coffin and decides the sensible thing would be to put on the mask and talk to it. I was convinced through the movie that at some point it was either all going to be revealed to it, be a dream sequence, or because the entity seems to be able to mind control a lot of people that Ethan was under his control would have to break out of it, or something like that. None of that happens. And so the entity tells Ethan that it wants him to let it in to a secure data vault in South Africa so that it can survive the nuclear holocaust that it is going to create once it controls all of Earth's nuclear missiles. Now, it seems to me that they could at this point I think they acknowledge the fact that they do have a choice to just, not let it in, and because they've said it won't nuke the world if it doesn't have a safe place to hide, which, okay, alright, fine. But all the normal rules of self-preservation seem to be, a bit skewed, because even a full-scale nuclear exchange with all of the nuclear weapons, a computer would be able to leave infrastructure intact if it knew it. Like, not to mention the fact that this thing seems to be able to just drop off like digital coffins. It controls all of the internet now. It can just deliver itself wherever it wants to go. Oh, also, by the way, in the 2 or 3 months since the events of the previous movie, or the timeline of these films, the world has descended into chaos and martial law because of all of the distrust and misinformation that the entity has put out across the internet. An idea which is explored not at all, really, in any way. There's one bit where Ethan is running through London and there are a couple of like police cars that he has to hide from for 2 seconds. And like the President of the United States, Angela Bassett, previously the CIA director in Fallout, is now the President. That is a remarkably quick shift from from high up in an intelligence service to the highest office in the country, presumably. Like who? No, they don't even bother to explain that. Like, she is a character in this movie as the President of the United States, and the moral or like practical implications of holding the entirety of the US and indeed the world under martial law are not addressed in any way. The stakes are arguably bigger than that. It is nuclear Armageddon that everyone's up against. So fine, but there are some really interesting questions about trust and media literacy and when you should or shouldn't listen to the government when they're telling you what to do. And none of that is addressed. It apart from one posthumous monologue delivered at the end of the movie about how kindness and trust and belief in others is what's going to be important now for humanity. Except kind of not, because as long as Ethan's around, everything will be fine. So yes, anyway, the entity tells Ethan that he has to let it into the state of Auckland in South Africa. Why he would do that is unclear. He then figures out that there is a way, if they get the original device from the Russian submarine, which has a silly name. Where is it? The Pakova? It does not say here. The Pakova, I'm calling it the Pakora. The Pakora can destroy the entity, but the only way that it can do that is if they do let it into the data vault, and then they trap it on a 5D optical storage drive, which was only theoretical and didn't exist until Luther made one. Again, none of which is said by Luther or explained until one of the info dump mission things. They all look very proudly at the fact that Luther has transformed admittedly over 20 years, but from a gifted but definitely shifty computer hacking criminal to quite possibly one of the most important science and engineering people of the 21st century. And they all sort of smile and get glistening eyes as they talk about him, because he fucking died. But he didn't die from his cancer, he died from a bomb. But he was already dying, so that didn't resonate emotionally. Like, Luther, you were dying of cancer, but now you died exploding yourself to save London from being exploded in a bigger explosion. And Ethan's really sad about it. So yeah. Gabriel kills Luther. Ethan has to hand himself in. So that the President will give him an aircraft carrier, while his team go and find the coordinates for the Russian submarine. And so this is the next really nitpicky thing, but it doesn't actually feel particularly nitpicky. So they figure out that everyone knows when this sub sank. Everyone knows they were looking for the sub. Everyone knows when it happened, at least roughly. And everyone knows that there's this network of underwater listening arrays throughout the world, and it will have recorded them. And that's kind of, we all just lived through the Titan sub thing. Everyone knows that this kind of thing is available and possible. And yet, no one's brought this up before, and I think they do an okay job of saying, okay, well, the Americans didn't really know to look for it, and the only place that would have this data was one of these listening posts that's an American base, and so the Russians wouldn't go there until World War III was about to break out anyway, which now it is. So now the Russians are done. But yeah, Ethan was focused on finding this key, but they knew that this key was going to open something on a submarine that sank, and they'd be able to figure it out. So it doesn't make too much sense why they wouldn't have been looking for the submarine at the same time as trying to get the key in the last one. But anyway, so... And from here it just kind of... Yeah, they go there, and Ethan flies there on an Osprey, and things look perilous, because the Russians might shoot down the Osprey. I don't mean a bird. An Osprey is one of those planes with rotors on the end of each wing that they can rotate and face upwards, so it can fly like a helicopter as well as a plane. That's an Osprey. So Ethan's going to get shot down if they don't leave, but he can't leave because the submarine hasn't arrived to pick him up, so he jumps in the sea. And then the American military get out of there, and then, oh no, is the submarine going to come get him? But yes, of course it is. And then they go to get, and then the rest of the gang go to the listening post, and the Russian special forces are already there. Oh shit, that was actually a bit of a surprise. Okay, cool. What's going to happen? Oh, they have to build a floppy disk drive in 1 hour to read this old cache of floppy disks that will have the backup data on it. And I'm, oh, okay, that's a fun challenge. Maybe they'll build a different device that they can use to fight these people off, or maybe it might just be interesting watching Benji and the big cameo for this movie. The big callback cameo. William Donlow, the CIA agent who gets laxatives put in his coffee in Mission Impossible 1 in 1996, makes his big comeback. Not just as an administrator who works using the computer that had the not list in the first movie that Ethan stole, the man who was the data architect of it all, but also because Ethan stole it, and apparently that was his fault, despite him not working in security in any way, he got deported to this listening station where he's been for the subsequent 30 years. And that's a good segue into the needless callback. So the worst one. So what's kind of fun? When Bill Donlow comes back, he gives Ethan John Renault's knife that fell down from the laser shaft in that first movie and stuck in the table, and he's kept it for 30 years, apparently sensing that at some point a screenwriter would say he'd need to give it back to Tom Cruise, despite the fact that knife has absolutely no emotional resonance for Tom Cruise whatsoever. He was aware of it for about a third of a second as it fell past his face when John Renault dropped it 29 yeyears ago. But it plays its part in the movie. But that's fine, whatever. The really, really, really goddamn bad one is okay. We have, where is he? We have Shea Wiggum, who I really like as an actor. He showed up in the last movie as Jasper Briggs, one of the CIA guys who was trying to hunt down Tom and the gang. and along with Greg Tarzan Davis, which I didn't read. That's pretty cool. Who's the other CIA guy? Greg, the younger CIA guy, gets flipped to Ethan's team very early in the movie. In the previous movie, it seemed like Jasper Briggs was, coming around to, okay, maybe Ethan's not a bad guy, maybe he knows what he's doing. And then at the beginning of this movie, he really hates him again. And he says this isn't the reason. But the reason he hates him so much is because Jasper's name isn't Jasper. It's Jim Phelps Jr. And for those of you with really long memories, Jim Phelps was John Voight's evil baddie character from the very first movie. But Jasper doesn't tell us this. Ethan does. Ethan says, "You're Jasper Briggs, except you're not Jasper. Your name's not Jasper, it's Jim. It's James. It's James. It's Jim. It's Jim Phelps. Just like her dad. He disappeared when you were 7. And then we get flashbacks. And it's insane. It is utterly insane that they made this decision. It's like they were like, oh, it looked like he was going to start liking Ethan by the end of the last movie, but we need him to be on Kittredge's side and be a bit of a baddie still. So how can we make him not like Ethan? I know. Let's make him the secret, shamefully renamed Jim Phelps Jr., who believes that Ethan is the traitor, who keeps on killing off all of his teammates, and that's why he hates him. It's insane. It is insane. So that's the worst bit. That is the worst bit. I was just absolutely waiting for the moment when Hannah Waddingham was going to turn out to be related to the White Widow, or be like Philip Seymour Hoffman's sister, or it was mental, absolutely mental. So yes, anyway, the team minus Ethan go to the listening post. They have to build a floppy disk reader, and then while Benji and Bill are building this floppy disk reader, Bill says, "Oh, by the way, there's no data on those floppy disks." After it felt like a cover-up when they changed the system. So I went through all this data, and there was only one event that was significant, and that data doesn't exist anymore. Oh no! Oh, but it does because I memorized it, but it's not on these disks. So I'm going to write it down. I'm going to give it to my wife. I'm going to give her an excuse to go and feed the dogs, and then escape with the coordinates. And that's all fine, and then there's a big fight, and the Russian soldiers are trying to kill them, and then Bill starts transmitting the coordinates via Morse code anyway, and the Russians are like, oh, they're transmitting the code, we've got it, let's go, and then the house is burning down and everything's collapsing, and Bill's frantically sending the Morse code while the fire licks up around him, and the roof's collapsing, and then you're just like, oh no, like Bill's obviously not getting out of this. And then it cuts away to Hayley Atwell and Bill's Inuit wife on the dog sled on the ice. The reason that they're on the ice is that the plan now is for Ethan to they've got the coordinates, they send them to Ethan on the submarine. Ethan gets taken by the submarine to the coordinates. He swims down to the submarine, he gets inside, and he takes the big portable storage drive that has the entity source code on it. And then he swims to the surface as fast as he can, where the team will meet him. They'll chainsaw through the ice, they'll get him out of the water, but because he will have had to swim up so fast, he'll need to be in a decompression chamber. And then they will have that thing that they need to take it to the data vault in South Africa. So they'll be in South Africa, and then they'll go to South Africa, and then they'll destroy the instant. There's no reason why that has to be the plan. There's also, oh my god, in Ethan's digital coffin vision AI future session with the AI, with the entity where it says you've got to let me into the vault. It shows him a vision of all the nuclear missiles in the submarine sort of clanging and battering together in it, and it setting off a nuke and it blowing up everyone on top of the ice, and there's a huge nuclear explosion. They can never destroy the entity. The entity wins and they die. And Ethan's like to Hayley Atwell, the woman that he's known for 4 weeks, who is now his emotional guiding light. He's like, you have to stay off the ice. You have to stay off the ice, or you're going to get blown up by a nuke. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she goes on the ice with the dogs. And she's like, oh, no, I can't. But then she just does. And then when Ethan's in the submarine, all the nukes are clattering together, and nothing happens because, nothing happens. Also, there is some really manufactured. So, oh God, Ethan doesn't have enough air to stay down there for him because he's had to dive too deep. So he's using a pressurized air thing in a dry suit, presumably a slightly pressurized suit. He's diving down to 500 feet below the surface. That's immense pressure. And he gets down there and gets in there, gets the thing, and then because he's opened doors and let more water into the submarine, it starts rolling along this cliff edge. This like thousands of tons of machinery that is mostly full of water is now heavy enough that it starts rolling down. And so there are some cool shots of the interior of the submarine rotating with the water going round it and him getting through it. That's all fine. And then he has to escape out of a torpedo tube because he can't get back out of the normal route. But the submarine falls off the underwater cliff and just plummets down below. Ethan's taken off his swimsuit at this point, and then he loses his oxygen, going from what was already 500 feet below the surface, easily going 700, 800, 900 feet below the surface, and then having to let go of his oxygen because it's snagged on the submarine because of course. And he manages to swim all the way up before he drowns, but as they established earlier on in the movie, because it's really cold, it will slow down his metabolic function, so they can revive him and then they can put him in the hyperbaric chamber so that they can cure him from the bends, and his recovery time will go from days to a few hours, and they'd already helpfully set that up already. But before, he was hyper competent and very skilled, but he was very much a fallible human being. He would mess things up, particularly again in the most recent movies. Things would go wrong, he would mess up, he wouldn't be as capable as he thought he was. And now he's just, from the sheer force of his love for humanity and his belief that destroying the entity is the only right thing to do, despite the fact they spend the entire movie saying if you destroy the entity, it destroys all of cyberspace. And that would immediately crash the entire world economy, all food, supply, chains, just everything would cease functioning and there would be immediate anarchy. But at least some of the nukes would work. But Ethan's still like, nah man, better than being controlled by the entity. Rather than, letting the entity think it's him and then shutting himself in a shack with no internet connection and coming up with a new plan. For a bit. The world's already living under martial law. How much worse could it be if you have an AI ruling everything, if you've not given it access to its safe space? Anyway, Jesus. Oh God, I'm rambling. Oh God, I'm really rambling. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to wrap it up here. It's all like this. It's all manufactured tension. It's, oh no, will Ethan make it out of the submarine? Well, of course he will. Oh no, Ethan's going to drown. Well, no, he won't, because they're going to bring him back, and he's the star of the movie. Will Bill and Benji and Paris and the CIA guy get out of the burning house? Oh, they did. They're all fine. No one's concerned. Oh my God, Bill and his wife and Theo Degas are going to have to stay behind and disarm the third nuclear bomb of the movie, where as long as you remove one detonator, it won't go nuclear, but it will still make a big explosion. Oh, and they're all just sacrificing themselves. Wow, okay, that's big, but it's the final movie. people have to make sacrifices. Yeah, fine, okay, cool. Oh no, they figured out a way to be safe, and they all made it. Oh my god, Benji's dying. No, but he's fine. Oh my god, is that a shot of Benji actually succumbing to his wounds and dying? No, he's fine. Yeah, they kill Nick Offerman. Nick Offerman, one of my favourite actors, shows up as a really stony-faced general, being really shady and asking for a sidearm from one of his military men, presumably because he doesn't trust the president not to launch nukes, and he really wants her to launch all the nukes everywhere. And then she decides not to launch the nukes, and it would be the perfect place for Nick Offerman to draw his pistol and be like, right, I'm going to shoot you if you don't do this, Madam President. But instead, it seems like he got the gun because he knew that one of the Secret Service agents would try to shoot the president, and he'd need to sacrifice himself and shoot the Secret Service agent dead. What? But why? They never explain why the Secret Service agent was doing it. Like, maybe the Secret Service agent was under the control of the entity. Like, Ethan gets randomly attacked by an American serviceman on a submarine with a knife, not in the shower, while he's jogging on a treadmill, because, you know, extra strenuous exercise is what you need before you're about to go and swim 1,000 feet underwater without a pressurized suit. And yeah, so is the Secret Service person who tried to get the president, were they programmed by the AI to make sure that she did launch the nukes? But if the AI programmed it, why not just fucking kill the president? Why not just do that a while ago? You know? So, or it would actually be really interesting if the Secret Service agent went rogue and was like, Madam President, launch the nukes. I don't care. Do it. I'll shoot you. This is more important. You have the chance to at least save America, even if it means killing everyone else in the world. And that should happen. So do it. But no, there's like, you never see that guy's face again. There's no explanation. He's just there to kill Nick Offerman, who, I don't know why he needed to die. I don't really know why he needed to be there. And it's just all like this. They get to the safe space, the computer virus safe space, and Gabriel's there. And then Jim Phelps Jr. and Kittredge show up, and they capture everyone. And then there's a double secret ambush, and Simon Pegg gets shot, and Gabriel runs away with the virus USB stick, so Ethan has to get it and plug it into the portable drive and upload it to the internet so that the entity, the virus now doesn't destroy. They said it would destroy all cyberspace, but then halfway through the movie, they turn around and go, okay, no, so what this virus does is it tricks the entity into thinking that this 5D magical optical 360 terabyte in 1 square inch optical drive is the safe space vault. We have to have it in the safe space vault to make it think it's in the safe space vault. But that's what the virus USB stick does now. It tricks it into thinking the USB stick, the Luther's super USB stick, not the virus USB stick, is the safe place. And then when it's been uploaded to the internet, the entity will sort of shoot itself into the little storage device, and they will have 100 milliseconds of time where they have to cut a wire and unplug the drive, which of course they do manage. But previously in the movie they were like, right, this virus just scrubs the entity from cyberspace and it will kill all the cyberspace. And then 3/4 of the way through the movie they just casually drop in that actually no, what this virus does is something completely different. Yeah, stuff like that. There's retconning within its own movie. And then Gabriel has biplanes to escape with if the nuke that he put there is going to go off, because he has to get minimum safe difference and he has to do it in a plane, but he doesn't want radar and he doesn't want the instant to know where he is if he's going to get the instant, so he needs a biplane. And he's got a spare. And then Tom Cruise does some more aerial shenanigans where he clearly really was clambering around on the outside of a couple of biplanes above South Africa for a week or two, and he was insane. And it just had none of the impact of some of the previous sequences, like the Burj Khalifa or the Halo jump in Fallout. It's like the cliff motorbike jump from Dead Reckoning. There was so much publicity about it, so much. And then they still had to augment so much of it with CGI, and we'd seen so much promotion about it that it just had no impact in the film whatsoever. I assume they did that because they were like, people aren't going to believe that you did this for real. If they just see it in the movie, they would assume all the CG had the CG so much of the surroundings in it. So we're going to have to show them he did it for real 50 times. But then we'd seen it and it wasn't special anymore. They didn't really do anything. They did show Tom Cruise standing on a biplane for one of the early teasers for this movie, but that's kind of all that we'd seen. And that's kind of all it had. It wasn't as dynamic, and frankly, it wasn't as it didn't have the same feeling of knowing that Tom Cruise learned to fly a helicopter and do some crazy helicopter moves in Fallout. And there's never any doubt that Ethan's going to win in any of these movies. But normally I can suspend my disbelief. I can convince a part of my brain that doesn't know that Tom Cruise is going to win. And I couldn't do that for a single second. Every time Ethan was in jeopardy, I was like, oh, maybe he'll get a light stabbing, but he'll win. And he doesn't even get a light stabbing. Like he comes through this movie remarkably unscathed. And yeah, that's kind of it. They do it. Ethan kills Gabriel. He gets the virus USB stick. He plugs it into the USB drive. It uploads to the internet. Hayley Atwell, because she's such a good pickpocket, can move her hands in 100 milliseconds. And so she unplugs the drive. They trap the entity. All the power goes off all around the world. Oh wow, there are actually going to be consequences to this. This will be interesting. Oh, the lights have come up on my phone. Everyone was wrong. Everyone in the world was wrong. All of the people who were like, we guarantee if you destroy the entity, it destroys all of cyberspace. Now. I've just had just in my head right now, just had a thought that at some point there could have been a conversation of Luther made this to destroy it. Luther's dead now. He can't rewrite it. But what if we can not destroy the entity? We just capture it. And that way we're not killing it, so cyberspace gets to carry on, but we have captured its mind. That's not how large distributed network systems work at all. If you put even an entire copy, but anyway, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that as a concept of, okay, we can't destroy it, so Luther's USB virus isn't what we need anymore. We need to modify it to trick it into hiding on this USB stick. And then we know it's a terrible option, but when we unplug, we'll have 100 milliseconds to unplug it. And if we manage it, then it will be trapped on this device forever. And we can either, presumably, just step on it or burn it. Neither of which you see them do. At the end of this movie, Ethan just puts it in his fucking pocket, walks off. But they don't say that at all in the movie, as far as I could tell. I may have switched off, but no one has to get Luther's USB drive and then do some really hyper-quick coding to change it so that their new plan works. As far as we know, if they do this, it scrubs the entity from all of cyberspace everywhere else, and it destroys all of cyberspace. But it doesn't, and everything's fine. And Ethan's a hero, and you actually get like shots of big burly man, like the Secretary of Defense or whoever it is, going, "God, you did it." It's just so serious. And then finally you get the posthumous message from Luther, which is saying, oh, you're the most important man who's ever lived, and no one else in the world could do what you do. You're the most important person ever. You do what you do to save everyone in the whole world, and you're the coolest. You're the coolest man ever, and I love you. And I'm dead now. Bye. And then that's kind of it. And then Ethan goes back to Trafalgar Square, and the new team all look at each other from a distance and nod, and then walk off again. And that's it. So it could very, very much not be the final one. My sequel pitch idea would be reboot the entire fucking thing and do Mission Impossible Junior, turn it into a TV show again, and have Tom Cruise show up occasionally as the director of the IMF. He is finally too old to go out in the field, and reboot it as a TV show. Here's my sequel pitch. Tom Cruise isn't allowed to run for more than 5 seconds of screen time in the next movie. He isn't allowed more than 5 minutes of screen time total, just because Ethan's had his time. We get a bunch of cool young people, and we put them in impossible situations where they are trying to defuse highly, highly dangerous situations where things go wrong and they have to improvise, and there's humour and heart. The end. That's my pitch. Okay, right, I've got to go. I've been sat here recording this for flipping ages. It's clearly really good to be back doing this. I think we're still on social media somewhere. We'll probably get your messages if you hit us up on Threads, I think. We're not on Twitter anymore. You could also check out, we've got Blue Sky. Oh, I don't know. I'm so organised. Regardless, we will be back in proper form at some point. We really will. We've also decided that any of us at any time can do a spoiler cast like this on our own if we feel like it. So I'm going to try and do more of these. I'm sure the others will too. And we'll be back with a proper episode eventually. I love you all. You're all the most important super spies in the whole world. And I wouldn't trust anyone else in the world except you, one specific listener, with being in control of an AI that wanted to destroy them. And yeah, cool. See you later.